And really, um, when I thought through the title and what I really wanted to speak to, me and Jordan, I mean, he was like, hey, I want to have you back out next month. Kind of what do you want to talk through, and what was going on in the environment. I really wanted to speak to, just because I know a lot of people are going through a lot of different things, whether it be you have money available and you need to figure out what to do with it, or you're having issues making ends meet. I just wanted to make sure that I had something out there just to kind of help people. So that's what I'm speaking to today. And we have a small group. So if anybody has any questions at all, feel free to pop in. I'll talk through a little on the personal side. I'll also sprinkle in a little if you're a business owner and you have some questions or some things you need help with, and how it kind of translate. But with that, I'll go ahead and get started. So a little about me for those who don't know. I know it looks like mostly all the people on the call are familiar with me, but I was in banking for about 8 years, managing a branch. And while I was there, I kind of feeling that there was something different that I wanted to do around financial coaching and helping people manage their money better. Um, and so that was when I decided that I wanted to be a financial coach. So my background in education is finance, business finance. I went to school and got my master's in business with a concentration in finance. So I've been around the topic for a long time. Um, but being able to help people manage their money with the end goal of I want people to be able to set financial goals and achieve those goals. Retirement for some, they believe is not an option, or any financial goal that you have. Some people think they don't have options. So being able to craft out goals and help people hit them, and just live the life they want to live, it's kind of what I'm trying to do. So with that today, like I said, we're going to talk through an emergency spending plan. So what happens in the event of emergency? How do you reallocate funds? Before we can kind of speak to that, I'm gonna hit on and talk through a standard spending plan. So a lot of people don't have a plan in place for when they get their money, where it goes, where to spend, how to spend. So we'll talk through that and then talk through transitioning for in times of emergencies. And at the end, I got some tips that I'll share, whether you're playing offense currently or whether you're playing defense currently. So standard, coming up with the spending plan. So, and the last presentation I had, and when I usually speak with clients, I have them come up with and separate their expenses into three categories. And those three categories, the first one is recurring expenses. So this is something you pay every month. Your mortgage comes out on the first. Your car loan payment comes out on the 5th. You pay your energy bill on the 10th. This is just stuff that every month you're going to pay it. And so you want to come up with and line out those items so that you know what's coming out recurring. The next item that you want to be aware of is your day-to-day spending. So gas, groceries, these are things that don't necessarily recur on a standard or a regular basis, but you know you're gonna have to buy groceries every month. And coming up with an idea of how much you're gonna spend on groceries, how much do you usually pay for gas, and different items like that. And then the last one, which when I'm working through clients coming up with the spending plan, we really try to attack the non-recurring and the random expenses. And what those are, and a lot of people usually have the same items that go here. Gifts, you're buying gifts for family, you're buying gifts for Christmas, you're buying gifts for friends, birthdays come up, whatever it may be. Or if you're going on vacation, you like to travel once or twice a year. There's just some different items that you know you're going to spend on this stuff throughout the year. So just making sure you have a plan in place so that when these items come up, you're able to fund those without whether it be using a credit card or whatever may have you. So usually when I'm talking through creating a spending plan, these are the three areas that initially we talk to when we want to get these in order. Because what will happen is if you know how much you're spending on your recurring expenses, you have a pretty good idea day to day, gas, groceries. This is how much I spend a month. And then you figure out, okay, on a yearly basis, I spend this much on vacation, I spend this much on gifts, I spend this much eating out, and you're able to break that down monthly, and you have a really good idea month over month how you spend in all three of these areas. You'll start to see that if there's money left over, you can kind of approach your spending goals or your saving goals, and just make sure you hit your goals long term. But when I was kind of thinking through how to approach coming up with a budget or a spending plan for emergencies, I really kind of wanted to touch on three different categories that I usually do speak to, but I usually don't organize them in this manner. And those three categories are essential living, your essential expenses or your living expenses, what this is, and I kind of hinted on it for some of the recurring expenses. You're going to pay your mortgage, you're going to pay your rent every month. If something happens, you got to pay those. If you're trying to get month to month, if you're just trying to live and make ends meet, you need to have money for your mortgage. You need to have money for your car payment. You need to have money for gas. You need to have money for groceries. You need to pay your energy bill. You need to pay water bill. So you want to format the last three items, and whatever you consider essential or living expenses, you want to earmark for this category. The next category is your discretionary or your fun expenses. So what goes here? Vacation. If you're traveling, I would consider gifts to go here. This isn't something necessarily that you need to live on. Buying gifts, and there's a lot of different things that would go into discretionary or fun. If you have any hobbies or anything, really, this area is what you're kind of looking at is if you're trying to um, live month over month. If it's something that you don't need, you really want to consider discretionary. And then the last category that I usually speak to anytime I'm speaking to somebody is saving. So you want to make sure you're saving accordingly, whether that be for retirement, if you're saving for somebody for college, if you're trying to put money away for an emergency fund, you want to have a certain amount of money that you set aside for savings. Um, so when I talk through and when I encourage clients, or when you're thinking about how much you want to spend in these certain categories, you really want to have some structure to it. You really want to have some parameters in place, because what could happen is if you don't know how much you're spending in these areas, or you don't have a necessary allocation of how much you're spending on your housing or how much you're spending on your car, it's very easy to have all your money go towards your living expenses, and that leaves you no money to have fun with, or that leaves you no money to save. So there are different structures or percentages you can use and that clients use or that people recommend when you're trying to save or when you're trying to figure out how much to spend for fun. Um, but I would encourage a client to 60% you want to have go towards your living expenses. So let's say I make $100 a month um, for your housing and your car loan and your phone payment and your groceries. You really want to have that be only $60 a month. Next that so when you're trying to figure out how much should you be spending for vacation or how much you should be spending for gifts, and you really want to include all these together. If you're making $100 a month, 20 of that should go towards these categories. Um, and then the last one is saving. So 20% of your money should go towards retirement. You're saving for college. You're saving for your emergency fund. And usually, what you'll see is if you're at 20%, that gives you the ability to save for an emergency fund and have enough that you're stashing away for retirement, in your IRA, college savings, and different things like that. So why is this important for business owners? So the personal budget piece, specifically speaks to an individual or consumer. But if you're a business owner, you need to know how much is needed to pay yourself. So if you go through all of your personal expenses on the personal side and you say, okay, in order for me to live, I have to pay myself $5,000 a month. You know how much you need to earn on the business side to be able to pay yourself $5,000 a month. And you also need to be aware if something's happened within the business where you're unable to make that $5,000 a month, then you have to figure out how to fix it either on the business side, whether that be earn more money, or on the personal side, whether that be cutting expenses every now and then, just to keep things in order. The other thing with that, you need to know how much is needed to run your business. And when I say that, what I mean is um, you need to have a spending plan for your business. So if you have a plan for your business, you know, okay, this percentage of money I have set aside every month to pay myself. This percentage of money I have set aside to run my business on. This percentage of money I have set aside to save. And for each business, the percentages, but you do need to have a plan in place, or you do need to know if you're trying to run your business effectively financially. Like, okay, this I can only spend this much money to run a business. If I'm spending more than that, I'm either not able to pay myself appropriately, or I'm not able to save appropriately, or I'm not able to have money set aside for taxes at the end of the quarter, at the end of the year appropriately. So you have to have some parameters in place, because it's easy if you're running a business to spend all your money running a business trying to grow. Um, and long term, short term, and long term, that might hurt you, especially if you're trying to figure out how come I'm not able to pay myself enough. How come at the end of the year I don't have money for taxes and different things like that. So when this spending plan is specific to the consumer, but you do need to have a plan in place on the business and different percentages, and just a good idea of how much you want to pay yourself on the business, and how you want to allocate your funds if you want to run the business um, really well, so financially. So with that, when I'm thinking through coming up with an emergency fund, it's really difficult, or it's easier to come up with an emergency um, spending plan if you already have a spending plan in place in the event that it isn't an emergency. And what I mean by that is you already have everything listed out. You know where all your money's going. Um, then you can just look through and say, okay, if there is an emergency, I know I'm not going to pay this. I know I'm not going to pay this. So it just kind of makes it easier to put a plan in place for you. But before we get speaking to um, an emergency spending plan, what I do want to talk through is just for the sake of this presentation, what am I considering an emergency? Um, and specifically, what I'm considering an emergency is for some reason you lose your job, and I'm only picking this scenario just because of the current environment. You lose your job and you're unable to have the same amount of income going forward for X amount of time. Or if you're a business owner, for one reason or another, you have to close your doors, and you're not able to receive the same business income as you used to, for one reason or another. So you have to close up shop, or you have to figure out a way to make more money, but for a certain period of time, you're not making as much money or the same amount of money that you used to. There are a lot of scenarios that you could consider would be emergency. So if your car breaks down, and you have some money set aside, yes, that would be considered an emergency. Or if you have to go to the doctor for one reason or another and you have to pay something out of that, you have to pay for that. Yes, that would be considered an emergency. But just for the sake of this presentation, the emergency I'm looking at is first, you lost your job and you're trying to figure out, okay, what do I need to do? What do I need to pay? How much do I need to live on? Um, so first, in the event of an emergency, what usually happens is we have this graph: 60% of our income goes towards living expenses. 20% is discretionary fund, and then the last 20% we're going to save. What happens in an emergency, immediately what you'll do is you'll get rid of what you're spending on your discretionary items. Also, don't have the money coming in. So you're obviously, it's not obvious, but you won't be saving as much as you used to. So where, for example, I was making $100 a month, and I was having to pay 60 to live on, lose my job. I'm not having fun with $20 and saving the other $20. I'm trying to figure out with what I have, how can I pay my $60 worth of monthly expenses? Um, but even more than that, usually what you'll try to do is figure out, okay, my living expenses are 60%. Um, what can I do to kind of cut those living expenses down to 50%? Just so you don't have money coming in, how can I stretch my money longer than it's currently being stretched? And so, why is it important to have an emergency spending plan? The main reason is you want to have a plan. It in the event of an emergency, um, you do not want to have to come up with a plan of how to get from month to month. Um, there's too much stress involved. It's just something you don't want to have to think of. So if you know, all right, the money's not coming in, you know, we're cutting these items. Let's go ahead and get these items cut. We have enough to get 2 months. We have enough to get 4 months paid for. And then you know, okay, we need to figure out how can we make more money if I lose my job? What do I need to do to make more money? Um, the other piece is it gives you an emergency fund target. So what I mean by that, everybody's heard or told that you need to have an emergency fund in place. And usually when they say that, they say you want to have 3 to 6 months of expenses. Um, but really, what you don't want to do is just try to have an you're trying to um, save enough to where you're living on it, but you're also, if you have some monthly expenses, you're including in there some savings that you have or some discretionary items that you have. So I just drew an example here. Let's say, for example, that I make 250, excuse me, $2,500 a month. I picked that number because it was easy. So 2,500 for all my expenses per month. And when I'm looking through, okay, they tell me I need to have an emergency fund, 3 months expenses. I have a savings goal. I want to have $7,500. That's good, but in the event of emergency, most likely you're going to cut some expenses. So then if you look at it and say, okay, of that $2,500 of my expenses, 1,500 of that is really what I'm living on. So I have a 3 month emergency fund for that. That cut my emergency fund target down to $4,500. Um, so if you have a plan in place, you know, okay, we're getting rid of all these items. If something happens, we really only need to save this much money. But then also, if you're looking at your living expenses and you say, okay, right now we spend about $600 on groceries. Um, if it's an emergency, we're going to try to figure out how to stretch that to $500, for example. Or, I mean, there's just some different areas where you're just going to try to cut your living expenses. So if I'm making 2,500 a month, 1,250 of that is for living expenses at 50% of my income. That drops your emergency fund target for 3 months down to 3,750. Essentially, that's half of your target. Um, so what you'll see, and what I encourage, or one thing I would kind of point out is when you reduce your living expenses, you'll see two things happen. First is it gives you more money to save. So let's say, like I was saying, I make 2,500 a month. If I spend less on my living expenses, I can save more, or I can have more money set aside for discretionary items. Um, but the second piece is not only did I have more money to save, but it also lowered my target for saving. And one thing that I'll say here when you're looking at creating an emergency fund or having a target, this also speaks to when you're trying to save for retirement. Um, Because what'll happen is if you have a financial advisor that you work with or that you speak with, um, they will look at your expenses now and they'll say, okay, how much will you need per month once you retire? If you lower your expenses now, not only will you have more money to save towards that goal, you'll have a lower retirement savings goal. Because if you, and we'll go back here, if you have, instead of you trying to figure out how to live on 7,500 a month um, in retirement, and you're just trying to live on 3,750 a month, that'll essentially decrease your retirement goal a lot. Um, Also, along the way, I mean, if your living expenses are low, you can either save more, you'll have more money to save, but also you can have more money set aside for discretionary. So I kind of say that to say, and this kind of goes towards business too. If you're able to um, have your living expenses at 60% and or lower them below 60%, that goes a long way. And when people say living within your means, um, they really mean not just that you're able to fund all your living expenses within 100% of your income, that you're able to reduce that number so you have money that you can set aside. Because it's easy to live beyond your means, and it's kind of hard to even live within your means at 100% of your income. But to reduce that number, that just helps you do a lot more long term. So, um, an emergency spending plan. Why is that important for business owners? Um, Businesses have discretionary items also. So, in the event of an emergency, if you're a business, you need to be able to have all your expenses in one place and know that okay, if something happens, um, we're cutting these few items, and this so that'll one give you a target for how you can save in the event of an emergency for your business. Um, but for two, you'll know, all right, we're in an emergency or money's not coming in how it used to. We have this much set aside. This is how long we can run. We need to figure out different ways to make more money or whatever it may be. But it's a good starting point for a plan if you're trying to position yourself as a business, just to know what items you can get rid of and how much that'll save you. The second one is businesses have employees. What we have seen um, as of late is a lot of businesses. I mean, if they have employees and the business has to close, that means employees don't have jobs. Um, and what if a business owner, for his own income, he's paying himself X amount of money, he's saving a percentage of that. Um, and he's seeing that maybe one of his employees isn't just making the right decisions with their money, he's able to have a conversation, if that's the type of owner he is, and say, hey, um, it'd be a good idea if you saved a little bit of your money. Um, Not like that, but just hey, how's everything going? I see you spend X amount here. Have you ever thought about putting some money aside if something happens? Um, and the reason I say that is it's for business owners now. I know if you have employees that you have to let go, it doesn't matter what the situation is. Um, it's a hard conversation in itself, even if that employee has money set aside, let alone if you know that you're having to let somebody go, you know they have no idea how they're going to make ends meet. That just makes it all the worse. So if you are a business owner, not only is it important for you to have money set aside or have a plan in place for you, I'd encourage you to speak with any employees you have or people that you work with, just to mention it to them, because as we can see, I mean, there's emergencies happen, things happen, and this is something that I would venture to say none of us really expected, um, but things happen. Um, so, any questions about any of that before I kind of talk through some of the tips and resources or anything of that nature? No, I won't call on anybody. So
I can't
if
hear
you,
anything. Can you?
me,
Oh, okay. Yeah, you went out there for a second.
oh, did I?
Yeah. At least for me, you did. I don't know about other people.
Okay. Anybody have any questions before I kind of power through it? Can you hear me, Jordan?
Yes, sir.
Great. Thank you. I got nervous for a second.
No, no, no. We're good.
So what I'm going to do, I have a few tips, and I kind of broke them down to um, if you're playing defense in the current environment, and then tips if you're playing offense in the current environment. Um, so with that, the one tip, it'll be for both. The one thing I would encourage you to do, number one tip, have a plan. Even if you're currently in the situation that you're in, you want to come up with a plan for how much money you need to get from A to B. How much do you spend per month? If there's stuff you don't need, get rid of it immediately. That way you're not trying to fund things and finance things that are really inessential. Um, the next thing, so there are a lot of banks in a lot of different places that are offering relief, and whether that be um, letting you not make a mortgage payment for a month or so, or not dinging you for having a late credit card payment. There's different things that a lot of banks and financial institutions are offering. So I would encourage you, if you have any um, bills or just really anything that's due, um, to contact them. I think they've been pretty um, upfront with some of the things that they're offering. But I think it is on us as the consumer to reach out to them and just say, hey, if you need help, just say, hey, I need help. What are you guys offering? What can I do? What does that look like? Because a lot of people just won't address it, won't pay it, and then they start have money coming in, and then they try to go back and fix it. And sometimes the damage is done. Whereas now, I think a lot of places are being a lot more graceful currently. Um, the other thing I saw, student loans, and this kind of goes with financial institutions. Federal student loans, they dropped interest rates for the time being down to zero. So I know they're offering different kind of grace options. With that, they're not charging you any interest if you're not able to make a payment. But I would still encourage you, if you are paying on student loans, to reach out to them for that. And then the other one for small business owners, I know that the SBA, they have disaster assistance that they're rolling out. Um, and there are some certain prerequisites, and I think there's a few questions that you have to affirm to. But they are trying to help businesses trying to kind of make ends meet for the time being. So if you are a small business and you're interested in something like that, or just want to learn more, you can reach out to me. Or if you have a certain bank that you bank with, you can kind of connect with them and see what they have to offer. So, with being home for the past, I don't even know how long it's been, one of my buddies encouraged me to pick up a show that I was watching on Netflix. I started it, I stopped it. He was like, man, you got to get back on it. The show being Ozarks. And one thing that she said, she being Wendy Bird, she said, never let a good crisis go to waste. And I don't even know what crisis she was speaking to, because there's so many crises in that show. But immediately that made me think to currently in our environment that this is a crisis. And if you are in a good position, or if you have planned accordingly, there are a ton. Now I won't say a ton, but there's some different ways you can kind of take advantage of crisis. Um, So when I look through my tips, number one, have a plan. That's if you're playing offense or defense, you want to have a plan. But two, when I say that student loans interests are dropped to zero, if you have the means and ability to pay and you've been paying your student loans, and you are trying to get them paid off, when they drop student loans to zero, for example, and I'll use imaginary numbers. Let's say you're paying $500 a month on your student loans. Most likely, not most likely, but potentially 400 of that could be going to interest. Um, so when they say they drop the interest to zero, if you're paying $500 a month, um, $500 a month is going to go towards bringing that balance down. So if you're in a position and you have money coming in and you have money set aside for different things, whether it be emergency or just any kind of savings, and you are one that you're trying to get rid of student loans, I think I heard somewhere some people are saying they're taking their student loans to the death, to the grave. But if you're trying to get rid of it, now's a good time. I mean, if does that mean paying extra? If that's something you're able to do, but at least making the payment, because right now, at least for the near future, those balances will go down way quicker than you just making the standard loan, even with a 2-3% interest rate. And then the other tip I would say, if you're somebody that invests, and I will preface this with, um, I'm not a financial advisor, and I would encourage you to speak with your financial advisor. And if you don't have a financial advisor, I know a guy. But everybody's seen that the stock market has been going down. Um, and what people with money say is that um, it's time to buy. Stocks are cheap. If you can buy a stock cheap, at some point it's gonna grow. And if you have the money to take advantage of that now, long term, um, there's a lot of benefit that goes with that. So if you're able to, if you're in a good position to kind of do some different things, kind of now's the time to take advantage of it from a business standpoint. If you have a business and there's a way for you to figure out different ways to make money, which is kind of what me and Jordan were talking through. This environment will force you to um, reevaluate the way you do business. Um, if you're able to take advantage of it and just find different ways to kind of make money as a business, and then when things go back to whatever the new normal is, and you're able to do whatever you do now and then whatever you did in the past, and that just increases your revenue stream. That's a big win. Um, but it takes not letting the crisis go to waste. So, and one thing, so I was fortunate enough last week to be on a call, a Zoom call through the chamber, and the business doctor, Dr. Baker. One thing he said that I had never considered, and he, he I don't want to say he kind of brushed over it, but he kind of said it in passing. But what he said was, "Will this happen again?" Um, and when he said it, he referenced that there's a flu season that comes around every now and then, which is true. But if we were to have a cyclical coronavirus season, um, would we be prepared for the next one come Q1 of next year? And my hope is that people would be, because I mean, if you're able to just take advantage of and adapt now. If you're a business owner, if you're a consumer, and one, you're trying to you can figure out how to, okay, if this happens, this is what my business is going to do. If you're a business, you start to set money aside. If you're a consumer, it's like, okay, um, I know I need to set some money aside for an emergency because it's been preached to all of us. But hey, I need to set this much aside. This is what I'm going to do, and just to be more prepared, because we don't know if this will happen. He scared me when he said it, because this whole time I was thinking, all right, come June or July, the coronavirus will be gone forever. Like, it will be good, but we really don't know. So when you're thinking about coming, if you're somebody that it's kind of been hard for you to deal with. You're a business owner. You just haven't been able to figure things out. Or if you're a consumer and you really haven't been able to figure things out. Um, what what can you do now, or what can you do when things go back to the new normal, just to make sure you're not in this position again. Um, so I'll wrap with that, but I do want to open it up for questions. If anybody has any questions about anything I shared today, questions, comments, concerns, thoughts.
This man charges good money for personal finance coaching. So please, please ask away. Ask any questions that you may have.
The one thing I'll say that so for the clients that I've been speaking to and working with, emergency spending and an emergency fund usually is not at the top of the list of things that I cover, but obviously now it is something that I've been making clients more aware of and just putting it at the forefront. So what I would encourage anybody, especially if they haven't been impacted really, um, they still have money coming in, they still have money that they can save. I would encourage you to kind of work through how you're spending and see how much you can set aside, because you're having the money come in now, but you don't really know what happened in the next month, or you don't really know what's going to happen in the next 2 months. So just kind of try to be aware of it. The other thing I'll say is, I know there's stimulus money coming. What I would encourage most to do is to have a plan for that also. And most people probably do. But just so you know, hey, we can live on this money coming in for the next 2 months, or we can live on this for the next month and a half. Let's figure out what we can do to kind of make ends meet for the next month and a half or so after that. But just to have a plan. I mean, it's easy for money to come in and you spend it and be like, man, they didn't give us enough money, and it's probably not enough money. But if you have a plan, you know already it's not enough coming in, and you're trying to mitigate that on the front end, playing offense, as opposed to on the back end. The money comes, you spent it, and now you're playing defense again, trying to figure out what to do. So
I think that we've all been in that position of scramble when things have popped up, and I can definitely say personally, those have not been my best financial decisions, in hindsight. I think, maturity and education go hand in hand with the financial literacy piece. So I think that a lot of people will get their stuff together now, and seeing how things have really shifted in terms of just this portion of the tide, right? Because
that
whatever
would be the hope.
normal looks like, I think we all need to utilize this time to kind of manage our money a little bit better and figure out, how we should be spending. Can you touch on, so I say that to say you're saying great things, and especially with the student loans, can you tell me how a business, not necessarily like a person who's in business that could be getting this money. Of course, we're all getting the stimulus check, right? We're all getting, some money for our dependents as well, if we have them. Hopefully Ralph can get a social security number. Okay, might be Sean.
Work on it. Work on it.
But what should we be looking to invest that money in? Where should we kind of, you know, should we hold it out for certain things? I've heard a lot of people say, "Oh, I'm just going to put it in my savings." Should we put it in spaces where it works? Should we, how should we navigate that money? Because obviously we'll need it some for the money for our pockets, but obviously, we should be investing somewhere.
I, sound advice would be essential first. If you don't have it to invest, don't invest it. But if like I said, if you have money where you can fund your essentials, you have some left over to invest. And by invest, I'm assuming you mean invest in the market.
Right.
Then, like I said, I would consult your financial advisor, because they will have a better understanding of, they'll know your goals better. Like if you have somebody you're talking to about your money, and you've already talked to them pre-crisis about what your goals are. Something happens, you have some money come in, and then you're talking to your advisor like, "Hey, this is my financial picture right now. What do you recommend?" They'll know, because what I wouldn't want to do is just give you a flat answer for everybody, because everybody's situation is different. And it obviously depends on what your financial goals are. And then, I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. But I mean, I'll leave it at that. Like you want to have you don't want to have a short-term plan in place where you should have a long-term plan. So like short-term, if you're trying to figure out how to move money around to earn a little bit here and make some money, long-term, that won't help you. Like you want to be thinking longer term, about the situation. I mean, and then, I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. I don't have any more info on the question, but I guess my answer would be, you want to know what your goals are financially, and then you want to think through that when you're trying to get an idea of what to do with your money, because everybody is getting the money. Everybody can't be discretionary or save with it. They need that. They need to save some because you don't know what it's going to be like. They need to be able to live on that money for the next 2-3 months. So yeah, you need to, save spend a percentage of it. Save some for May. Save some for June. You never know. But I mean, then there are people that they're still able to work. So I mean, if you're trying to get out of debt, you can work on debt. If you want to save it because you know you're working now, but you don't know if you're still going to be working in May, you might want to save it. I mean, it's different for everybody. So
You said you know a guy?
I do know a guy. He's my financial advisor. He's over at Northwestern Mutual. His name's Andrew Tudor. We're related. That is my brother. He does good work. If I have questions, I call him. I mean, I called him when I was going to talk through some stuff here. So, and I'll say some stuff, and he'll say some stuff back, and he makes me think. So he's a good one. I mean, if you have somebody that you don't know what to do with the money, or you really don't have a long-term plan in place at all, you really, I mean, like I said, if you're on offense or defense, you really want to have a plan. And that's just not how you're spending money on the day to day. You really want to have a plan in place longer term than that. What am I trying to do 5 years from now, 10 years from now? I don't want to work forever. When can I be able to retire? When can, so, but yes, Andrew Tudor, he's the guy. He's been doing it. I guess a while. I guess 3-4 years is a while. So he's good. I recommend it.
Awesome. Do we have any more questions for Fred? All right. Well, Fred, thank you so much. This has been truly inspiring. Always, when it comes to money, you make it seem so simple. I walk out so encouraged with where I'm supposed to be with my dollars. Eric dropped the emoji thumbs up and a hand clap for you too. So that's even better when the boss likes it. We're doing great things at the chamber. And, you know, I really appreciate Fred and him taking the time to not only build out this phenomenal presentation, but to really drop gems on us. You know, information is coming at us from all different angles at all different times right now. And sometimes in this day and age, I think a lot of us, especially the younger generations, are worried about fake news and what's real and what's not real. And the way that we get news is so decentralized now in terms of, you know, where people really have gatekeepers and what's really getting out. So we really are doing our best to make sure that we're funneling information properly to our member base and to the community, okay? And I want that last part to really resonate because we have resources for the community. If you go to our website, there's a community resource guide. There's a lot of great tips and tricks in there, ways that you can actually, you know, come out of this doing, you know, much better than you're doing now or coming out or when we were coming into this. I think that we really have a lot of great things that we're doing at the chamber, but we have a lot of ways that I think that we can help. So the biggest thing is that we need you to communicate with us what your needs are. So if you have interest in some programming, if you think your business makes sense to talk us through some of our, you know, business courses, as well as all of our programming in general. If you have something that you want to add, we're open ears, okay? All of our information is on the website. Also, my phone number is 513-475-7140. We will have more with Fred Tudor III coming up very soon, so please stay tuned for that. I want you guys to know that Fred is here for you, so please make sure that you take down his information. I've never met a money man that's made me feel so comfortable talking about money, honestly. And, you know, I think as a people, we don't always have the best financial literacy and financial education, even when you come up in, you know, full family homes. And the thing is that we have to get better as a community, and we have to start by being honest about it. And I think the great thing is with this stimulus, people will have some money that can, you know, that they can maneuver with and do some different things with. So we have to position ourselves to make sure as businesses that we're open and ready to receive and help guide those decisions. So I'm blessed to have a Fred Tudor on my side, as well as Andrew Tudor, as he mentioned, his brother at Northwestern Mutual. He just became like a CP
Director.
He's a director, but he just got a certification, right? He just
Oh yeah, CFP.
Yeah, CFP, which there are not many Black CFPs, and I believe we have a board member, April Pope, who is a CFP as well, and there's not many of them in the country, which is like wild. So of color, so super blessed to have them in Northwestern Mutual as a member as well. I want you guys to really let me know how I can be of service. We're really here to help. Please make sure you're checking us out on YouTube. Stay tuned to us on social media. We're dropping programs every single day, okay? Like I said, we've got like 17 programs happening. Let me give you a little rundown of a few. Tomorrow, we got Cisco Dowdell talking about living benefits, okay? And how to navigate those and utilize those because stuff happens. I think we all know right now stuff can happen, okay? So make sure that you tune in tomorrow. That is from 4:30 to 5:30, I do believe. Okay, please look on the calendar. Please register for me. That would really be helpful for me as well. I want you guys to also know that we have the style resolution with Sydney Murdoch coming back, talking about improving your style virtually, how she'll virtually help you pick out clothes that should come out of the closet, teach you ways to actually put clothes away for the season. And we all have some housework that we probably need to do. So that will be phenomenal as well. We have another installment of Doctor's Orders coming up with Dr. Baker on the 17th, okay? Please tune in for that, 12 to 1 on that program. I'm also doing some programs this month too. So we've got email marketing made easy. this is the time to be marketing your business through email, okay? We have to work smarter, okay, without having to work harder, okay? Even when we're forced inside to work smarter instead of harder, right? We also have automation made easy, powered by artificial intelligence with effortless customers and Talmadge Bell coming up. Please check out our calendar. Please check us out on Facebook. Please check us out on YouTube. Share our programs. Share what's happening at the African American Chamber. If you don't know, the city is cutting budgets because of sales tax being down and a lot of other things. So we're really trying to make sure that we're here for the community, okay? And we want to make sure that you guys, you know, are getting what you want, all right? Virtual programming is dope because you can do it from wherever. Okay, and whenever. So let me know if this time frame works for you. Let me know how we can be of assistance. I really want you to know that the African American Chamber is here to help. Okay, we are really here to help you out during this time, and I'm open to anything. Okay, we've got some great stuff coming up. We have member realignment. Now, let me tell you a little bit about this. I'm going to drop a gem for all of you here right now, okay? Had a meeting with our member services manager, Alex Thomas, who is phenomenal. If you don't know Alex and you want to be a member or are a member, please reach out. Alex and I are going to do a virtual edition of our member realignment, okay? And right before this, I got Fred Tudor confirmed as well, tentatively, okay, to be in there as well. And the thing is that this is going to be next level, okay? We also have info sessions dropping with the African American Chamber. I can definitely say for a fact that we will be bringing back our tech series as well. So if you missed that last year, we're bringing it back, okay? It's like a boot camp. You're able to actually figure out what tools that you can utilize virtually to help you work a lot better. And back to that cliche statement of working smarter instead of working harder, all right? This has been phenomenal, guys. If you have questions, please let me know. If you're watching the replay, we really appreciate you. And if you have questions, make sure you reach out to Fred. The slide is still up, so make sure you capture his information. If you need me, Jordan, JOURDAN, at African-American-Chamber.com, or call me, 513-475-7140, okay? I'd love to help you out. I'd love to find ways that the Chamber can work with you. Programs are happening, guys, and great things are happening at the Chamber. I look forward to seeing you guys again soon, hopefully tomorrow for Cisco Dowdell. Fred, thank you.
Thank you all. Thanks, Jordan.
See you guys. Good night.